Hello, this is Larry, and the noise you're hearing is rain. Sounds good, doesn't it? Nice. Well, I don't know too much, but I know this. My soul is like this bucket. It may look pretty good from the outside, but on the inside, it's got wounds. Some of them God has healed. Some that is yet to happen. I also know that these wounds, these soul wounds, the deeper they are in the bucket and the bigger they are, the more they have the ability to suck the life out of you and to reduce your capacity to hold the one thing you were made for, which is love. So let's start here. Let's start right here with the biggest thing we're going to put in the bucket. Love. That's what it's about. I'm convinced that the only thing that has the capacity to actually heal a soul wound is love. And the love we're talking about is divine love. The big deal here is first we've got to be able to receive it, and then we give it away. But it's in that order. So let the first thing that we put into this bucket be love. Next in order, forgiveness. Forgiveness is something that we all need. And to be honest, we think we can forgive without being forgiven, but we can't. The order of forgiveness is to receive it. And then for the forgiveness that you've received that you may not have even deserved, you probably didn't deserve, you let that kind of forgiveness flow on to other people who may or may not deserve it. Probably not. But forgiveness is a big, big key here that unlocks the rest of it. Forgiveness is the first thing that happens when you get directly in touch with divine love. So we'll drop it over here in the bucket. Next thing, healing. The word salvation is actually, it means healing, to be healed. It may begin at a certain point, but it's a progressive thing. And because the wounds of life keep happening, and some of those wounds are deep enough to actually become part of our soul, we need to have a progressive way of exposing ourselves to the love of God so that our wounds may be healed. And that we can have a day, today and tomorrow and every day, that heals more than the harm happens. It basically is a day that there are no perfect days, and there are no days where your soul doesn't take some hits. And some of the wounds that are in there are going to take a long time to heal. But we can live in such a way that we are progressively exposed to the love of God. And we can be healed more than we can be harmed. And in that, there is hope. When wounds happen, and then healing happens, what forms, first of all, is kind of ugly. It looks like it's a scab. But eventually a scab falls off and becomes a scar. The scar is a beautiful thing. We don't think of it that way, but a scar is the evidence of a wound, maybe even a life-threatening wound, that used to suck the life out of us, but now it has been healed and it's a scar. The only people that can see a particular scar you have are those people who have similar wounds, and therefore you are the living embodiment of hope. We'll drop this one in. You know, this is really about an identity trail we live throughout life. We're born, we have this early story that forms our life and forces us, one way or another, to create something that we call our identity. Well, that's not really our true identity. Our true identity is the one that we were designed to have by the designer of life, by the author of our story. But what happens with wounds, soul wounds, is that they come along, and whatever identity we thought we had, they're in the process of deforming that identity, of destroying it, in some cases utterly obliterating or modifying it. So the business becomes really moving on into the true identity that we have. And the best way we can actually find that is to be as close as possible to this source of love that had us in mind in the beginning and will be with us until the end. Because there is something to be found on your identity trail at the very beginning of it and at the very end of it. The word is beloved, because that's your core identity and it's mine. Like it or not, believe it or not, we are radically, abundantly, and outrageously beloved, not like we are going to be, but as we are now. Now that's just too much to handle, isn't it? We'll drop that one in. Two words come together here, faith and trust. In my opinion, they're not separate. We can have faith in God. We can have faith in anything. But faith becomes something different when we specifically trust something. We can say, a Christian might say that I trust God with everything. My heart, mind, soul, I've given God everything. Well, good. Easy to say. How about today, though? There are some things that I'm going to actually do today that I could choose ahead of time. I could literally trust God with something that's about to happen. Well, that's a little different. Specific trust. The idea that we would think about what's coming today and we would imagine, rather than some outcome we want, what about a spiritual condition of readiness where we are abiding with God, and that means that we follow our leader, we follow Jesus, and Jesus comes beside us. So we're abiding, following beside. We are aware, though, of God's goodness. We're awake to God's presence. We are available to God's purpose. We're alive in God's Son. We are accompanied by God's Spirit, and we are abandoned to God's will. Now that's a level of spiritual readiness that is worth seeking. And if we were imagining the day, to pray the day forward, to think of a few things that are going to happen today, and rather than think about outcomes, if our prayer might be that we would be full on in spiritual readiness as we meet that moment, that we would be absolutely available to God for that moment. Now that's what we're talking about. That is faith trust. Specific. It's powerful. We'll put that in the bucket. When we abide, that's a big word. That means be very close to live in, with, and through, to abide. To abide with all those A's in order. Abide and aware and awake and available and alive and accompanied and abandoned. Things happen. we become an instrument for God here and now today. That's a different kind of a faith. That is a faith that expects God. This is a lot about expectation. You know, we can believe in something. You know, the Bible says that even the demons believe in God. Well, then there's another level of this. We could believe God. Now that's a different step. That's bigger. That's bigger than believing in. Believe God. But what if we expected God? What if we lived in such a way that full-on expectancy that God was with us now, but we reciprocated as we are with God now? What about that? Stepping right on into an awareness, an intentional, living, breathing condition of spiritual awareness, available to God and awake to presence, full-on expecting God. But here's the deal. Don't begin to expect what God might do. Expect that God is there, that you're going to be, and that God's going to do what God does. Miraculous. That's a brand of faith that I want to find and live out, expecting God. We do all this, the prize, the booty, the bounty, alive, fully alive. This is the real deal. This is living and breathing and walking and talking and being with the one who called you forth, the one who knit you in your mother's womb, the one who laid the blueprints out even before that happened. Alive. Interesting, the word live, L-I-V-E, spell it backwards. Evil. I think that might be true. Evil and live might be the inversion of one another. Now, a few other things here. Let's see here. If we want to see something, we better take a closer look at it. Anything really worth doing is worth examining. What are we going to examine? Life, truth. Well, here's how it might all work. Let's think about examining the story. Now, here we go. This one right here, this is God's story over here. Big old ball here. Now this one here, well, this is my story. My story. Wow. What's the connecting link between my story and God's story? Well, let's see how this works here. Well, what's all this stuff? Yeah. How is this all connected? Well, you know, if you looked at all these little balls, connections, these are the stories of our life. And this is where it's all going to be found. The stories, the little ones, the big ones, the bad ones, the good ones, how they connect, God will show us. They are connected in ways we can't imagine. Yeah, because the truth is God's story and my story are together. Let's see here. We got this jar here. This is a jar that I made symbolically, putting together the things in my life that have wounded my soul. I got pennies in here, I got rocks, I got pebbles, I got paraphernalia, I got a little dagger sword here, I got money, I got what I now consider a blasphemy, which is don't put anything on a cross, even your country's flag. I love my country, but I love God more. Don't do what you're looking at here. It's wrong. Well, there's stories here. This is my soul. These are the wounds to my soul. And I know that God has been at work healing those wounds. Now, well, you may have noticed that I got my left hand here's got a white glove. Yeah, I'm a military officer. This is the white glove that I use for my dress uniform to hold my sword, my beautiful naval officer sword. Well, this glove over here, these are my flight gloves. I was a bomber pilot in the Navy, and this was the last pair of gloves I ever had that I actually flew with. You see all the sweat and the dirt there and whatnot? That's the real deal. Now, my life has done some healing. It's done some good things. It's touched, and it's been a blessing for other people. It has been. And near as I can tell, all the good that I've done in my life has an awful lot to do with God who loves me and who's done that through me. But I got this other glove here, and this glove here has done a lot of damage. This glove has killed. This is my right hand that I flew with, and this would grasp the stick that controlled the aircraft. Right here, this little button right here, this finger would pull a button back that's on that stick, and that would be the button that would give permission to the computer system, the attack system in the plane I flew, to unleash hell on earth and to drop 28,500 pounds down below on targets that I would prefer not to know about the details. So this glove here, even if it has done the right thing, has done great harm. It's and the work that it's done has taken life. It's been involved directly in the death transaction. And I know this, that God, the God who heals, Jehovah Rapha, the God who heals, this one here, the one who died on the cross, hanging on the crucifix, and the one on the other side that rose 3 days later. I know that when you're involved in things that can wound and injure the soul, the death transaction, that you have work to do with God. It's bigger than right and wrong, justified, unjustified, moral, immoral, legal, illegal. In every way that a human being can be directly and indirectly involved with death, there's business with God. And the business ends with healing, and it begins with grief. Because I know this, the God who hung for us is a God who knows how to weep with us. And it's the first thing that he invites us to do. Now, one more thing. We've got this heart here. Found this little heart. Used to be just a rock, so I painted it red. Kind of looks like a heart, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, this place here, this is what shoots directly through a heart. This is a soul wound right here in the center of the heart. This one can take you out. It can kill you. And the only thing that is capable of dressing and tending a soul wound is the progressive daily exposure to the love of God. other soul wounds. They take hits. They happen. They heal. They form a scab, and then they form a scar. Hearts break, you know. Whole sections come off. You get little corners where they, little zing, you know, something will chip you here. This is though. This is the wounded heart. And the wounds are really in the soul. And the healing of the soul wounds comes by hearing the heart. Imagine this heart has a couple of ears here. It hears. Imagine this heart has developed some eyes to see. Well, that's the truth, because with God and with the Holy Spirit, we are able to learn to see with the eyes of our heart and to hear with the ears of our heart. And that's what it's going to take in order to get back right on into this soul bucket. Yeah, we'll get this thing healed. Get that thing in there. Yeah. Now what you've seen here is kind of like this. Look at this beautiful old lock. It says Mastodon. Oh man, is that a manly deal. And then you can see it says 8 levers. Yeah, 8 levers. And we just went through 8 little balls that I showed you. They might be 8 levers. Let's see what happens here though. Get all this right. Wow, looky there. Look at that. It opens that up. Let's do that again. Let's see here. Yeah, let's go like this. Yeah. Isn't that nice? That's worth unlocking. So here's how it works. We hear the heart. We heal the soul. You can do it. Not alone. You can do it with the love that had you in mind. Well, I wanted to end this little story with something kind of amazing. I came to this picnic area at a park that I come to. Got here about an hour ago, and as soon as I sat down, I noticed that there was a smoldering fire probably from some picnickers yesterday. So I went ahead and I said what I had to say. I moved a couple of sticks around in the fireplace, and look what happened while I was talking into this camera over the last few minutes. Sometimes it's just waiting to burn.